Hi, this is Beth Bolhofer. I'm a leader in Toastmasters District 57, which is the East Bay of Toastmasters. I am super excited to be here to talk about how Toastmasters Corporate Program can help your employees with remote work. You know, we're all working from home. How can Toastmasters help that? I'm here with Kevin Markle, my co-leader and CEO, basically, of Toastmasters. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Beth. I'm so excited to really have a good chat with you about remote work and corporate programs because, believe it or not, more than 60% of Fortune 500 companies trust the Toastmasters program to help their employees reach their goals and help the companies reach their goals. And just in our district alone, we have more than 35 corporate programs going from Fremont up through the East Bay, all the way up to the Oregon border. So really a great topic for us to chat about today.
Wonderful. And you and I have been geeking out on this because we're both in the software industry. Why don't we talk about our own personal stories? How did you get into Toastmasters? And then I'll talk about how I got in.
Yeah, my why. Where did this all start? More than 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, I graduated from college, and like most college graduates, they had to find a job. They had to get into the workforce. And so I arrived in the Bay Area, no friends, no family, no job, but I had to get one. So what did I do? I joined Toastmasters so I could practice impromptu speaking, listening, and then answering interview questions. And yes, I nailed the job. I got it, and kept on going because I ended up in a sales role where I had to communicate with others. I ended up then getting promoted to be a sales manager where I had to give feedback to my employees, to my team members, and then shifted into a marketing role where I had to collaborate and coordinate and work with teams across the whole organization. And really, the Toastmasters communication and leadership skills have helped me every single step of the way.
That's so inspiring. And you came from another country.
I came from the Great White North. I came from Canada, absolutely. Arriving with a green card in the U.S. In November 2009.
That's amazing. So I'll share a little bit about my background. I started off as a shy software engineer, and I was so scared to even raise my hand and talk about concerns or ideas that I had in my design sessions. I joined Toastmasters, and within just a few months, I was not only confident in raising my hand and talking about the things I saw, my voice, bringing my voice to the table, but also learning how to run the meetings. And that's something I want to touch on today, that Toastmasters really helps us learn how to run meetings effectively and get things done in a meeting, which I think is a huge problem in every single organization and even non-for-profit organization.
I think we've all sat in meetings wondering why are we here and what are we going to accomplish. I think we've all been there a bit, and like meetings have like gotten so much more complicated because of remote work. This environment that we all find ourselves in, it's not just meetings that are hard to run, it's just like technology and trying to make it all work is a really big challenge, isn't it?
You know, I imagine going back to my young self and, you know, just seeing how unconfident she was and wanting to raise her voice. And, you know, she got those skills, but now imagine telling her, okay, you have to have a webcam, you have to have lighting, you have to have a good background. All of those extra things now as a young engineer who's got the insights, right? I was very technical and I knew the things that had to be done. But now add all that in to stop me from saying, hey guys, this design's not going to work, or we're forgetting about our customer, right? Bringing those to the table. It's just, I can't even imagine, like, empathy goes out for employees today who are new to this and don't have that self-confidence. It's got to be a hard life right now.
I mean, I've like raised my hand to like talk in an in-person meeting before. You
Right.
can't really do that in an online meeting. You can like wave into the camera, but it's hard, right, to speak up and find your voice and be heard and have that confidence. I mean, you talk about all the video things. Like, I think just about like audio. Like I go on meetings with my team member and I hear him clacking on the keyboard, typing away. And I'm like hoping he's taking notes about our meeting, but you don't know, right? You don't know if you have their attention, right? If it really motivated them to be involved and engaged. So yeah, really tough environment.
It is. It's really tough. And I think there's a lot of aspects of team, right? Team. It's that, we have a relationship with our team. Like I said in my office normally before this all happened, and I have relationships with my colleagues. I can chat with them. I can mentor them. I can help them. And now we're all remote, and it's very shocking. And we still have to run meetings and do one-on-ones too.
Yeah, it used to be I could just like look to my left and like ask my team member, hey, how's it going? How was your weekend? Oh, that lunch looks really good. You could have those friendly conversations, right? And also just like quickly ask, hey, what's going on with this? You can ask them questions. Now it's like I'm just going to send an email. I'm going to send the Slack. You really lose that human touch, that human element when you're stuck in that text and chat world, and like things can get misinterpreted so easily. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's having that video connection with people is, I think, really critical, especially like those one-on-ones when you have to mentor people. Those are skills that you can build confidence in doing, I think, in a Toastmasters environment where you can show that you're engaged, you can build community, and really have fun while you're learning and developing yourself as well.
Yeah, I think that something a lot of us are forgetting because maybe we get too into our work, right? We can work 24 hours a day nowadays. But what about the psychological aspects? What about like the team building and just the social? And I think that something that you and I have been chatting a lot about and geeking out about is just that Toastmasters can help with this. We build relationships in a friendly environment. It's just so incredibly valuable, even especially as we're all remote. And don't forget, Kevin, that I think there's going to be a change to more of a hybrid environment in corporations where staggered work. So it's not going to go away just because shelter in place goes away. This is something we're going to live with. This is the new normal.
It is. I mean, I think Facebook announced that they're going to let all of their employees around the world work remotely,
Yeah,
permanently.
permanently.
The change is happening. The change is real. And I think what you talk about with this kind of like sense of community, that's what really makes the Toastmasters program shine. Because people join Toastmasters because they realize, hey, I'm not feeling so confident when I need to deliver presentations. I don't feel so confident when I need to give feedback to my team member. Where can I build that confidence? Where can I practice the things, the speeches that are going to help me get there? And it's really hard to do that in a work environment because you kind of feel like you're being examined all the time,
Mhm.
and you don't want to make any mistakes. But
Right.
Toastmasters is this great environment where you can practice speeches, you can practice giving feedback, you can practice answering questions on the fly, and you don't have to worry about doing anything wrong. And you're doing it with your peers who are all trying to do the exact same thing. It's such an incredibly supportive environment, which is really what people need right now during this time of change and uncertainty.
It's amazing. I have been in Toastmasters since 2005, and we have a pledge when we join that is we're going to have a creative, supportive environment where we're helping everyone learn, and that trust is like a little break from your normal meeting. So maybe the same teammates go, from a work meeting, and then they go to their Toastmasters meeting, and there they can learn how to build rapport. They can create a relationship that when they go back to the day job, they're more close and more closely knit, and they have more trust. For example, let me tell you one real life example. I had a finance manager, and I was in software and product design, and she and I would never normally talk. We probably would have a lot of distrust, but she was an officer in my club, and we had built things together and worked closely to do things. And so I had this relationship with her. when we both had to work on a project together around finance, which can be very touchy, as you can imagine, we had that rapport. And so we were able to work through it. And I could say, listen, this is what's really happening. And she could go, okay, this is what's really happening on my side. And we were able to break down roadblocks and create an amazing result that we were then be able to bring to the management and propose that. And because of that relationship. So these are real relationships. It's great for networking and meeting people outside of your own group. This is real benefits.
And I think what you're talking about there too are like some like specific skills and competencies that employees and leaders need to develop, right? They need to be able to develop these strategic relationships, right? How can I work IT and finance? How can marketing and sales? How can these different teams work together towards common goals and objectives, right? You talk about this idea of like, coaching people, having one-on-ones, right? You need to be able to effectively coach people, right? And, telling somebody you didn't do something well in an email and Slack, ooh, that is really hard. It's really hard because you lose all the tone, all that human connection. And so those are the things that you can really practice through the Toastmasters educational experience, where they have speeches and projects where you can hone those particular things, which I think is really invaluable.
Totally agree. And one thing, we actually have a contest for evaluating in Toastmasters. I think we're the only organization in the whole world. Feedback is so important to us that we have a contest, and we have best practices around giving something that they did well. What can they work on and what can they do to challenge themselves? This kind of constructive feedback is really what sets us apart from other leadership and development programs that are out there, is we're helping people learn how to give feedback. And I think the millennials need this, but actually the truth is everybody wants feedback, and that's the way you create a learning organization. And that's the thing that's going to differentiate you in the market, is by learning quickly and growing from feedback.
Yeah, and it's really funny. My wife works in an HR organization. She's actually worked in the HR space for more than 8 years. And there's this constant theme that she runs into, right? As an HR business partner, managers always come to the HR team when they have a problem, when they don't know how to coach, how to mentor, how to guide their team member when they're struggling. And so HR is spending hours working one-on-one with these one-off situations, when really they should be developing their managers and their leaders to have those skills and those competencies and the confidence to manage those situations and those tough conversations sometimes that happen themselves, but also being really good at recognition and recognizing success. I know we do a ton to recognize the successes and the accomplishments of our members and what they do and what they learn. And so it goes both ways, right? How managers can really learn and grow from the program, taking a load off of the HR team so they don't have to get involved in some of these sticky situations.
Right. And I mean, I think anyone who's looking for a leadership program or a training program is looking for these kind of skill sets. And we haven't even touched on running meetings. I think maybe I talked a little bit,
Let's
but
talk about running meetings.
yeah, running meetings. I really think that meetings are something everyone hates. But when we're done with a Toastmasters meeting, everyone is like, wow, what a great meeting. And the reason why is because we have an agenda and we have action items, because everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. Everyone has a part. They're all prepped. We get through so much in a 1 hour meeting that it's so productive. And those skills, I learned those skills, and I took that back and I used that from being a shy software engineer to become an architect. And that meant that I could take a group of technical people and build a design and a product with their brains and my organization structure, learning how to time box pieces so that we get through a whole agenda. That is a powerful skill that every company needs to develop in their employees. So Toastmasters teaches this, and it's an experiential program. So you have to learn it as you go. It's really powerful.
And most meetings aren't in this like small, like, hey, we're going to have a one meeting and then it's a one off. It's recurring meetings because, and oftentimes, like people and companies, they're running these large projects
Mhm.
and launching products. They're doing events. They're talking with customers. They're doing all these different things. So it's not just this one-off meeting. It's managing entire project plans, coordinating with different teams, which is what I do. I've launched global products that require working with product management teams. You have to work with website teams. You have to work with finance. What are you going to price this product at? You have to train salespeople to sell it. You have to onboard your customer success team so they know how to work with their existing customers. Like you have to work with all these different stakeholders. So I think, employees, whether in the office or remote, they're working on these large initiatives, these large projects that are ongoing. And so improving the effectiveness, not just of one meeting, but of all the meetings that you're doing, can really drive dividends for the employees because they have a better experience. But you just get better outcomes when you're trying to launch and execute on all these initiatives, which is really critical.
That is so beautiful. And I think one thing you're touching on that you're kind of like skirting around is culture.
Mm.
Culture. How is culture expressed? It is expressed in meetings, productive meetings that value people's time and where things get done, people are held accountable. And that's something Toastmasters teaches. When I know that I have to give a speech or evaluate someone at the next meeting, I have to show up. I have to be there. I have to be ready. And that accountability is you learn that, and then you start bringing that to your other meetings. And culture is, everyone knows culture is king. It's so critical to have great culture.
Yeah, and I really you have learned some of that, like how you can maintain culture in this remote work environment, right? Like typically when I go to my weekly Toastmasters meeting, right? All of us log in like 10, 15 minutes before and we chat. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? We have fun, we laugh, we tell jokes, right? We kind of build that connection, that culture. Those are the types of things that companies still need to hold on to, right? It's not all business all the time. It's, we're not saying that you need to run these so rigid meetings with these firm agendas. No, meetings need to be productive, but they also need to be fun. They need to be fun. Otherwise, people are just going to be like, I'm just going to turn my video off. I'm going to focus on something else. I'm not going to be engaged. And that's really not a good remote working culture, right? You want people engaged in your meetings, so that everybody's getting value from them.
That's beautiful. And you know what else, Kevin? Listening. In those meetings, people are learning how to listen. I think this is one of the number one things I've seen in my career. It's just having a manager who listens, coworkers who listen, and that's another thing that we're training people on is listening skills.
Yeah, it's really easy to really like just I'm gonna set up a Zoom and here's the topic and I'm just gonna talk for 30 minutes and share slides and talk and like not look at the video screens to see how people are reacting. Like you can get that when you're in person, but if you don't have that engagement and kind of see what's going on with your audience, you can just totally railroad a whole meeting and really not get a lot done. um, the other side of listening is just that empathy piece, right? When you're having those one-on-ones and those mentoring and those coaching conversations, um, and you run meetings, like sometimes I'll have my dog barking in the background,
Mhm.
right? And I'm like, oh no, and I feel like so terrible, and I'm like rushing and looking for the mute button. It's this listening, it's this empathy, that people really need to develop and harness. And where else are you going to work on listening skills to be able to listen to somebody deliver a presentation and be able to, give feedback afterwards because I've listened, because I heard what you said, I saw what you did, and you can think about how this made me feel, how this is going to help our team. How do you practice and develop those listening skills? I don't know where else can you practice those things with your spouse. It's
You should
hard.
be. You should be.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, we've touched on communication, leadership, coaching, mentoring, listening. You know, I love it. So, what else have we missed today just to make sure we're covering all the bases?
Yeah, we've talked about all these skills, and I think people haven't, I think when they realize that they can develop, that there's a program where they can work and develop and improve these things, they can start kind of measuring, well, how well am I doing at some of these different skills and competencies? What could I be doing differently to improve, to grow my career, to get that next raise, to get that next promotion, right? So it's not just, I think, being able to measure the skills and the developments, which is what you're able to do as you kind of work through the corporate program that Toastmasters offers, but you're able to start, I think, having those conversations with your manager. What do I need to do next? How would you evaluate my performance? What do I need to do to get to this role, to get this promotion, to get this raise? Um, so there's a lot of tangible benefits really for people to kind of measure their own progress to develop these, but also to develop that kind of culture that of measuring the skills and the developments in companies, because they need to do this, right? They need to be able to figure out who gets what bonuses, who's going to get promoted next. And so this is really a great tool to be able to develop and accomplish that.
That's true. And another thing we have in the Toastmasters program is a set of modules. We call it pathways. It's our learning education program. And people actually can see their progress. They get through one module, then they get to the next module. Each of those has concrete skills. Some of my favorites was cultural, learning about my culture, other people's culture, how to communicate with other people's culture, just being aware that everyone has their own culture. And also there's like how to what kind of leadership style do you have? That was a big eye-opening, like democratic versus authoritarian, right? There's a bunch of leadership styles, so there's concrete things, and each of these modules teaches those. Which one are you doing, Kevin?
I'm currently working on strategic relationships, how you build relationships with others, um, which is really critical when you're trying to get stuff done, because in most companies, you can't do anything by yourself. You need to be able to work with others. And it's also, I think, building those relationships to get the resources and the tools that you need to be successful, right? If you need to be able to make changes to the website, if you need access to certain pieces of software, how can you persuade IT to give it to you? How can you persuade your manager to let you work on a project? So there's a lot that you can do by building relationships and by learning how to persuade and influence others in a work setting.
I personally am doing motivational strategies. I finished strategic relationships, very, very good module. And motivational strategies is like building on that. So once you have the relationship, how do you build on that to help the people understand how's the win-win? Like, how do you create win-win-win? So these are things that are concrete values that every business needs. And Toastmasters lets you manage and measure the progress down those paths. So it's really incredible. So
And
Kevin, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say also, Bet, I'm looking forward. I'm gonna be starting another kind of path, another kind of avenue, which is, simply put, which is why a lot of people look at Toastmasters is presentation mastery,
Yeah.
right? It's mastering the art of the presentation, um, which is really hard when you're looking at a small camera, right? It's so much different when you're working remote and you have to deliver presentations when you're not in front of a customer, right? When you're so far away. Companies are doing a ton of webinars right now, not just for external consumption, but also internally, right, with their own employees, like these virtual all hands. And so really even just some fundamental things on improving kind of those basic communication skills. is one of the many avenues that employees, that managers, that leaders can choose, right? We talked about all these different competencies and skills and paths. People are on their own journey in Toastmasters to figure out which ones I want to pursue, which ones are going to really help me get to that next level. It's a fantastic self-paced learning experience that I think we've touched on today.
Yes, and it's a learn by doing. It's not a lecture series. It's a learn by doing. Each employee is on a journey. They're doing the things. Each module is deliberate practice upon which they get immediate feedback. It's really a unique program. So Kevin, I am so thankful that you were here today. I think we have a few minutes for questions. Does anyone have any questions today?
Take a look at chat as well.
All right, let's see.
Here's a question on chat for you, Bet. I think it's related to our last thing. So we talked about it's a self-paced program. How do people kind of pick and choose what they're going to work on, what they're going to focus on?
There is an assessment. People can take the assessment in the beginning, and it helps you think about, like, do I want to be more of a planner, maybe project planner? Do I want to do more of leadership, building teams? So you take the assessment in the beginning, and then you can select. It basically gives you 3 paths to pick from. So that's how that works. Awesome. I see there's a hand out there. Ashley?
Yes, I have a small question. Do we know what the corporations expect in terms of the time that a Toastmaster will be basically away from work, but developing these skills? Do we have a concept on that?
Yep, that's a very common question. Now, I would say the average person who's participating is probably working on their Toastmasters work, probably 1 hour and 5 minutes a week. The 1 hour is the meeting, because the meetings are usually 1 hour and they're very organized and they get a lot done in 1 hour. And then 5 minutes to prepare for speeches or other roles that they're going to be participating in. So an average of 1 hour and 5 minutes. There could be overachievers who do more than that, and they of course can work on the weekends or in the evenings if they want to do research topics or other extra things. But it's really up to the person on how much time they want to spend on it. Did that answer your question, Ashley?
That does. That answers that question. I have another one if I can ask. If I were a manager, would your program explain to me concisely what the benefits of Toastmasters I should expect in the people that I have enrolled in this? I'm giving them the time. What am I going to get out of it?
I'll let Kevin answer that one.
Absolutely. So the corporate program and the learning experience has identified more than 300 different competencies that employees can learn and develop. All right, so very specific things. So we talk about some of these broader skills, listening skills, and coaching and mentoring. But we can actually break these down into much smaller bite-sized pieces. And so we can kind of look at all the different projects that people can complete through the corporate program to develop and hone all of these different competencies. And I think it's really easy to be able to understand how these different competencies link back to the day-to-day experiences of an employee. And how it impacts their productivity, right? How can I work more effectively? How can I run more effective meetings? But also the effectiveness, right? Because we're having more effective meetings and better presentations, right? I'm closing more deals. I'm able to work more effectively with teams. We're able to launch products faster. So I think we can go from the small bite-sized pieces of all these different competencies and really connect the dots to how this relates to an employee and how it relates to really what an employer is looking for from their team members.
I have one more question. I'm a busy manager. I have a lot of things going on. How much time are you expecting me to put into this?
Now, Ashley, I'll take this one, Kevin. If you're planning to join, again, 1 hour and 5 minutes a week, and if you're just having your employees join, I would say be supportive. Put it in their end of year goals. Make it part of how you measure them. And have parts of, like, did they attend meetings every week? Did they finish certain numbers of modules? Make that part of how you measure their progress, because that will help them stay motivated. And just ask them how they're doing. Come visit them and watch their speeches. Just be there to support them. I would say that would be how you could use the program yourself.
And Bet, I'd also add on, you know, I know of managers who get updates from their employees. The club reaches out to the HR team, they reach out to leadership, and they talk about, here's what our team members are doing, here's what they're working on, here's what they've accomplished. This is how it's helped them in their work. It's helped them with this project. It's helped them with this initiative. We see that very often in our corporate programs where there's that constant feedback and constant updates, because employers want to know that this is helping, that it's having an impact, and it certainly does.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and wrap because we are at 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and just talk about next steps. If someone's interested in getting a corporate program at their place of work, Kevin, what do they need to do to make that happen?
Yeah, you know, I think the first and easiest thing that they can do is just send us an email. They can send us an email at info@d57tm.org, and that information, of course, is available when you access this video. So that information is available, and we certainly do have information available on our website. But I think, you know, what I find is often the most helpful is really just setting up an introductory conversation, right? Where that individual at this company can ask questions, right? Can talk about, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're struggling with. How can the corporate program that Toastmasters offers helps? That's the easy first step. And typically from there, you know, we make sure it's a good fit and we work with that person collaboratively to actually show what a Toastmasters program would look like in their environment. But yeah, first step, just send us an email, info@d57tm.org, and we'll be happy to set up some time to chat about your needs and how we can help you meet them.
We are here to help you. Well, thank you, Kevin, for joining me. Thank you, audience. I know we have a few more questions, but we did try to keep this to 30 minutes because everyone does have a busy day. So thank you all. Please reach out and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.